Judges Corner is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and gatheringmagic.com. Support our show by visiting both websites. Now it's time for Judges Corner with David Green.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Judges Corner. In today's episode, I thought we could talk about the new M14 rules update. That becomes live on July 13th, and I thought we could talk about it now in order to get you guys a bit of ahead of the curve, and we'll start things off now with the new legendary rule. So with the old legendary rule, if any player controlled the legendary permanent and another one came into play with the same name, they all had to be put into the graveyard as a state-based action. With the new legendary rule, each individual player can control one legendary permanent as long as they only control one with the same name. If a player then decides to play a second legendary permanent with the same name as another one they control, they choose which one they want to keep and get rid of all of the rest. So, for example, if I control a Moloku and my opponent plays a Moloku, both are going to stay on the battlefield perfectly fine, as opposed to the old rules that would get rid of them both. Now, the problem arises when I decide to play my second Moloku. When this happens, I have to decide which of the two I want to keep and which one I want to get rid of as a state-based action. So the Planeswalker rule is basically identical to the legendary rule, except we use the Planeswalker subtypes for the Planeswalker uniqueness rule. Basically, the old Planeswalker rule was if any player has more than one Planeswalker with the same subtype, we put all of them into the graveyard as a state-based action. But the new rule allows each player to individually have one Planeswalker as long as they all have the same subtype. The problem arises when a player decides to play a second Planeswalker that shares a subtype with one they control, and then they have to decide which of the Planeswalkers they want to keep and get rid of all of the others as a state-based action. So let's say my opponent controls a Jace, Architect of Thought, and I play my own copy of Jace, Architect of Thought. That's perfectly fine because we both control a Jace. But then let's say I use its ability and I play my second Jace, Jace the Mind Sculptor. Well, now I have to decide which one I want to get rid of. My Ravnica Jace or my $150 Jace by current market value. I'm probably going to keep the $150 Jace, and then I get to use one of his abilities, so I'll choose Fate Seal, the best ability ever. The next update involves the sideboarding rules. The old rules stated that you had to have a 15-card sideboard or a 0-card sideboard. The new rules say that you can have anywhere between 0 and 15, so you can have a 4-card sideboard, an 11-card sideboard, or even a complete 15-card sideboard. And your main deck can never be less than 60 cards. So, for example, let's say I'm playing a game and we go into game 2. I board out 5 cards from my main deck and I put in 6 new cards for my sideboard. When I do this, my main deck is now 61 cards and my sideboard is 14 cards. So that's perfectly fine. But inversely, if I boarded out 6 cards and I put back in 5, I couldn't do that because then my sideboard would be 16 cards, which is illegal, and my main deck would be 59, which is also illegal. So just to reiterate, you can never have any less than 60 cards in your deck, and you can never have any more than 15 cards in your sideboard at any given point or time. So the next update is in regards to indestructibility. Basically, before it wasn't a keyworded ability, and now it's being upgraded to a keyworded ability. So the way it interacts with some granting or taking away effects is a little bit different. Let's take a look at a few of those examples next. So in this example, let's say that my opponent tries to fuse a Turn and Burn to kill one of my creatures, but I want to save it by using Boros Charm to give all of my creatures indestructible until end of turn. Under the old rules, Turn and Burn would have no effect on it because it would be indestructible because it would just be a quality granted to all of my cards since it's not actually written on the card. Under the new rules, Boros Charm would actually give all of my creatures indestructible. So Turn would turn indestructible away, and Burn would burn the creature to death. So with the indestructible update, they've also clarified that unblockable is definitely not a keyword. The way they went about doing this is removing the line unblockable and replacing it with this cannot be blocked. So it makes it even more clear that the card just inherently cannot be blocked. Next, let's take a look at the brand new and very confusing land play rule. So let's say that I have an Azusa on the battlefield and I play an Explore. Currently, I'm allowed to play 4 lands for turn. Then I play all 4 lands out of my hand and attack with Azusa. When Azusa dies, I currently drop down to 2 lands for the turn, and I've already played all 4 of them. So I'm actually exceeding the number of land plays by 2. Then in my main phase 2, I play a Reanimate to bring back Azusa. When she comes onto the battlefield, I have 4 land plays granted to me, but I've already used up all 4 of them, so I can't continue to play more lands. One last thing I want to talk about is that things like Farseek or Rampant Growth don't actually count towards your total number of land plays for turn. Only effects that grant you additional land plays, like Oracle of Moldiah, count towards that total. So before we go, I just want to make it clear that the update doesn't become live until July 13th. So until then, you're still playing by the old rules. And if Wizards decides that they want to modify any of these rules, or if they want to completely abandon them altogether, we'll definitely let you know as soon as we find out. Until then, make sure to leave a comment below, or send us an email at judgescorner@gatheringmagic.com. And until next time, remember that the only constant is change, especially if you're a changeling, and have fun.